Hello, everybody. It is the divisional round now. It is, or it will be, Saturday, January 16th? 17th? 17th. It'll be the 17th by the time this comes out. And we are here to talk about the Seahawks and the 49ers. The Seahawks, fresh off a bye week, these two teams met 2 weeks ago. So they met in week one and they met in week 18, and now here they are again in week 20, meeting with the Seahawks fresh off a week of rest and the 49ers fresh off a dogfight with Vic Fangio's defense out in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I mean the first thing that comes into my head with this game is that one is round three between these teams. They split the regular season. The Seahawks won in when they played in Lumen, and I'm sorry, the Seahawks won when they played in Santa Monica, and the 49ers won when they played at Lumen Field in Seattle. Um, so they won in each other's house. And the first thing that came into my head initially was that okay, they might follow suit, and the 49ers might beat them again at Lumen Field in Seattle. But over the last 2 weeks, the 49ers offense has not looked great. Last week against Philadelphia, they did have 351 total yards, but it also came with two turnovers and a low time of possession. It was really, it kind of seemed like a touchdown or bust um, kind of game for them. But when they played Seattle in Week 18, it was just a whole lot of bad for San Francisco. Didn't even crack 200 total yards. Had under 5 yards per play. Had a turnover and zero touchdowns. And it's hard for me to think that the one seed coming off of a week of rest, the last team that they played was the same team. It's hard to imagine that anything different is going to happen. But I want to hear what your thoughts are on San Francisco and Seattle.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, both of these teams play out west and they play on the West Coast. But San Francisco is still traveling. Like, they were just in Philadelphia, so they just went west to east, and now they have to go back out west. And while that's probably an easier adjustment because you're going back to your home time zone, it's still probably going to mess them up for at least a day. And when Seattle is so able to just focus and get through everything, that one extra day that it takes San Francisco to get right might end up being critical in this one. And we've talked a lot, or we talked a lot in the wild card round about the merits of using the past to predict the future, and we kind of determined that if it's a division opponent, you kind of know what's going to happen because we got the same theme in all three Bears-Packers games. The Packers dominate for long stretches of the game. The Bears pull out some fourth quarter bullshit to make it really close or maybe even win the game. And that happened all three times. And now we're getting a third matchup between Seattle and San Francisco, but there's a much less clear pattern here between these two teams this season. They met in week one. It was easily Seattle's worst offensive game of the year until week 18 when they met San Francisco again and once again had their worst offensive game of the year against a now battered Niners defense. So this is a really, really interesting game to me because San Francisco's defense has shown that they can clearly keep Seattle's offense in check, but Seattle's coming off a bye week and they're coming off a week of rest, and they now have had effectively 3 weeks to prep for the Niners. Because even though they couldn't have possibly known they were going to play them last week, all of the prep they did leading into week 18 carries over here, and they didn't do any prep in between. So they can just pick up where they left off, and they have an extra 60 minutes of football to base their schemes off of.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of keys for the game for Seattle, the magic number for both of these teams, honestly, to me feels like keeping the other team under 20 points. Because if we look at both of their last two matchups, the last game's final score was 13-3, and the matchup in Week 1 was 17-13. Neither of these teams were able to crack 20 against one another in either of the two matchups in this season. And I think maybe Seattle will be able to do it this week. And I think they are going to hit 20. But honestly, I think that for San Francisco, you're looking at this matchup, and this is just not what you want. I mean, this is a team that has abused your offense in both of your prior games, and your defense is going to, the 49ers defense is going to have to play one hell of a game to win this.
Well, and something we haven't even talked about yet is the Niners offense played Seattle at theoretically full strength. Obviously, they've been missing Ayuk all year, but they had Christian McCaffrey, they had Jawan Jennings, they had George Kittle. George Kittle tore his Achilles in Philadelphia, which means a third of your big offensive production is gone. Now, you still have Christian McCaffrey, but it's so much easier to key in on just Christian McCaffrey. You could leave Boye Mafe and Nick Imanwari in combined man coverage on McCaffrey all day and have the rest of the team play zone or play man, whatever they're best at. I have to study this Seattle team going into this game. But whatever the rest of your defense is best at, leave Boye Mafe and Nick Imanwari in man coverage on Christian McCaffrey. And if it's a screen, have Mafe go get him. And if it's anything downfield, have Imanwari take care of it.
And I mean, the craziest thing about that is that this is to speak how good of a player Christian McCaffrey is. You can do that, and it genuinely might not matter because Christian McCaffrey genuinely has the hands and the body control and the route running of a slot receiver, and it is terrifying to think about. So for Seattle's defense, you've got to hone in on CMC because if you don't hone in on CMC, he will run or test all over you. I don't think he's going to have a lot of success on the ground. I think a lot of his success is going to be what it was last week against Philadelphia, which is through the air. And for the 49ers, you got to pray a little bit, and Kyle Shanahan is going to have to be Kyle Shanahan and get in his bag a little bit because you're going to need to find creative ways to get down the field and score on the Seattle defense. Yeah. You're not going to be able to do it with just sending Christian McCaffrey on an option route and hoping it works. You're going to need to utilize some trick plays at the right time. But I do think that Seattle's defense is just going to have a repeat of what they did in Week 18, and I don't think San Fran is going to be able to do enough defensively to hold the Seahawks. And my score prediction is going to be probably 20-14.
Yeah, and I have Seattle winning 17-14. These are two great teams. And honestly, of the NFC West matchups we could have gotten in the divisional round, I'm glad it wasn't Seahawks-Rams, because if that matchup happens, it deserves to be for a trip to the Super Bowl. So even if it required my Eagles losing, I'm excited to get round 3 of Seattle-San Francisco. Seattle split with both of the remaining division opponents in the regular season. And if we get an NFC West gauntlet for Seattle in the playoffs, where they have to go through San Francisco and then they have to go through LA. Nobody will be able to say they didn't earn a trip. Now, whether or not they beat San Francisco this week or theoretically LA or Chicago next week, we are not meant to know. But I certainly am rooting for Seattle. And I know that you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So, who would. Now, obviously, if the Niners win and the Rams win, the Rams get a home game. But do they?
And here's where I stand is that yes, when the Niners play in Los Angeles, it's not really a Rams home game, but it's still better than having to travel, whether it be up the coast to Seattle or a 2-hour drive to San Fran. It's still a lot better to not have to do that. So honestly, I think the team that I'm rooting for in this one is probably going to be San Francisco. They're a little bit more banged up than the Seahawks. They're a lot more banged up than the Seahawks are. And generally, I just like the Rams' chances better against the 49ers, even if it's at SoFi and the stadium has more red than blue. I'm rooting for the 49ers in this one. It would be quite the rematch of the 2021 NFC Championship game when they played at SoFi, and the Rams sent Deebo Samuel crying home with a potential with what looked like could have been a fractured rib from Nick Scott. But 49ers are who I'm rooting for in this one. Do I think they're going to win? Probably not.
Yeah, I know intuitively that I should be rooting for the team that eliminated Philadelphia, but I can't bring myself to root for that team out in San Francisco. I'm rooting for Seattle. I like Sam Darnold. I like Mike McDonald. I want them both to succeed. I want JSN to succeed. I want Zach Charbonnet to succeed, even though there's no world in which he should be getting as many carries as Mike McDonald. And Clint Kubiak is the only guy in the world who thinks he should be. But you know what? Future Eagles head coach Clint Kubiak, I trust you. So, that, I think, is just about all we'll have to say about this one. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be covering Bills-Broncos in about 4 hours from when this video goes live. So thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you in just a little bit.